Welcome to the Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night. This is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania. Amateur radio is a worldwide hobby that has many different aspects. Digital television is just one of the many modes and areas that are covered. Maybe you're interested in becoming involved in the DATV Experimenters Nights. You realise that you do not have to be a radio amateur or need any ATV equipment to participate anywhere in the world. Also participate in the night by coming up to the Queen's Domain club rooms. Yes, right on top of the Queen's Domain in the heritage listed Coast Wireless Station. You never know, we might get you in front of the camera or behind doing one of the many roles during the night. We get underway with our program on a Wednesday night from 7:30 p.m. local time. We'll see you soon. This is VK7 OTC.
Okay, this is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania with our DATV Experimenters Night. And I have a special guest in the studio, Graham VK5/7RE.
Yes. Yes. I'm on my 13th call sign.
Okay.
I don't know whether you can put that on that.
Oh my goodness! Okay, we'll just let's go to here and here. Oh, now we need to zoom out here. We need to zoom out on your. There you go. VK4, VK3, VK2, VK4, VK1, VK5, VK7, and then back to VK5. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just go to back to we were there. Sorry,
Yep.
That was a bad. Anyway,
Okay.
Welcome, Graham.
Thank you.
Now, the reason you're doing this is why?
Now, I was going to be leaving next weekend.
Okay.
Going back to South Australia, but I'm marooned. I'm stuck here.
COVID marooned.
Yeah, can't get the SA Health permit.
Right.
One of the wonders of government bureaucracy, you must apply in less than 7 days of when you want to travel, and it will take 5 to 6 weeks to process.
Right.
So,
Okay.
in other words, I'm looking for another house to live in.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I was timing my exit to when the guy that owns the house I'm staying in is going to sell it. So it's about to be sold.
Okay.
And everything would have been convenient if I'd left. But anyway,
Them's the
I'm
breaks.
here. I could be here. I'm expecting to be here probably until February.
Okay.
But if the whole idea of this little guest lecture, would you call it?
Mm.
I was going to talk about my life and times in radio, my career in radio.
Cool.
Grade 8, 1968 at high school. Now, I was born and bred in Innisfail,
Okay.
up in North Queensland.
Yes.
And the town got a new radio station, AM broadcast station, 530 it was at the time, now
Okay.
531.
Okay.
4KZ, Innisfail Tully. And my dad brought us. I had two brothers, an ever-ready kit, 2-transistor radio kit, like crystal radio with audio amplifier.
Yeah.
So we put that together and had a lot of fun for a while, and it inspired me. And about the same time, I don't remember exactly when it was, but one of the kids that we used to get on the bus with got a portable crystal radio, which
could take it with him.
Yeah, truly impressive. So anyway, that was a kit for a while, an interest for a while.
Okay.
And then sometime around 1971, I borrowed my brother's transistor radio.
Okay.
And I soldered the variable capacitor from the ever-ready kit into his radio.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know if I soldered it in series or parallel.
Okay.
And I tuned both variable capacitors.
Okay.
And I only heard one thing. It was Oriental music.
Oh.
It's now called Asian music,
Yeah,
but Oriental at the time.
Yeah.
And then there was a big pause at the end of it, and an announcer came on and said, "This is Radio Peking."
Oh,
I
okay.
thought that's pretty impressive.
China, my goodness.
And I took the capacitor back out and restored the thing back to the way it was.
Okay.
No one knew. So that was that one. Now, 1975, I left home. I wound up in Kununurra,
Okay.
the Lord River scheme,
Yeah.
and working with surveyors. Now, we had walkie-talkies, as in two. So
Yep.
I had one, the boss had the other one. And in the 3 months that I was there using them, I'd hear voices, people talking,
Okay.
different languages, and I'm looking around. Where are these people? You know, are they on the property here somewhere? You can't tell.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and one particular day, I heard a particularly clear conversation, and it fascinated me.
Okay.
And but anyway, life moved on.
Okay.
Oh well, hang on. Somehow or another, I slammed the door of the Land Rover and the aerial of the walkie-talkie.
Okay.
So I broke the aerial off, and it had a stump that long
Okay.
sticking out. So it still worked, but with very short range, as
Right.
in like from here to there. And I found a piece of fencing wire
Okay.
and just put it in there, and it's about the right length, and it sort of worked.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
was the first thing I ever fixed.
Oh, a bit of antenna experimentation. Yes.
That worked. Now at the same time, working up there in the Ord River scheme, I got the other main interest in my life was photography
Okay.
at the time, because there was another government guy working with us, going around photographing all the plants
Okay.
and all the fauna. He was a botanist,
Okay.
and he had a macro lens, and I just couldn't believe it. This thing could go down to like 2-to-1.
Mm.
And I was fascinated with that. So
Yeah.
that also led into the photography. I got into photography before I got into radio.
Okay.
And then it progressed on from there. Now, 1978, I wound up in Alice Springs, living there.
Okay.
Well, 1976 it was, but in 1978, one of the guys I was sharing the house with, he had a Volkswagen buggy, and even got a CB radio installed,
Okay.
because it was all the craze. I wasn't into it at the time. But the minute he got the thing home, and I heard this thing, I was just addicted. And I was in his car every night except the one night that he locked the car, and I couldn't get in. And that started the fascination with radio.
Okay.
And then when I left Alice Springs, went back to my hometown, Innisfail, and I got a CB of my own, fitted
Okay.
it to the car.
Okay.
And again, like I wasn't allowed in the house with the thing. My father wouldn't allow that
Okay.
noise, horrible noise.
Out of the car.
Yeah, it was in the car on the edge of the property. And like it was an addiction.
Okay.
I was on every day, all day, every day and night. And not understanding what the propagation was about. We'd hear voices. We
Yep.
had skip. And one night I got into an argument with one of the local motor mouths. He reckoned I didn't know what I was talking about, which was like a red rag to a bull. You know, I was 23 at the time, and I set out to prove him wrong.
Okay.
And he switched off the CD, and I'd known for some time there was a guy living opposite my uncle.
Okay.
Had all these aerials.
Right.
So I just drove down there, walked in, and I said, "G'day, and what's all this about?" You know, wanted to know.
Fantastic.
And he said, "Oh, it's ham radio." And I told him my story. I'd had the argument with the local motor mouth, and because he started laughing, everyone had the... Anyway, another story. And I remember sitting there looking at his radio, which was Kenwood TS520S.
Oh, okay, yes.
Now, I looked at one of the knobs and it said RF gain.
Yep.
And there was another one called AF gain.
Yep.
And I said, I know what RF gain is, but what's AF gain? He said, AF gain is audio frequency gain, that's your volume control.
Yep.
So I have gone from not knowing what the volume control was to what I'll get to a bit later on in the story.
Okay.
Okay. Now, he mentored me in ham radio. I was down there 2, 3, 4 times a week,
Okay.
quizzing him about things, and I got the WIA correspondence course.
Fantastic.
And I learned the Morse code in 4 days.
Wow. Wow.
And
Okay.
that was because no one ever told me that you can't learn it. Or
Yeah.
that it's hard.
Okay.
I
Okay.
just put these 2 cassette tapes on,
Yep.
and I learned
I
it.
remember those tapes. I actually started to learn on those tapes.
Yeah.
Well and truly.
Okay, now, as things went on, I got the novice licence on the first go. Then in February 1980, I got the limited.
Okay.
And then sometime after that, some months after that, my mentor said to me, "Look, I think you want to join the Air Force. You should join the Air Force."
Ooh,
He
okay.
literally told me to
Okay.
go and do it.
Okay.
Because I didn't have any confidence in myself
Okay.
at all. I was a surveyor's chainman,
Yep.
which is glorified labourer. Probably said the wrong thing there. That's a labourer.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, I still had no confidence. Went to recruiting in Townsville, did all the tests, got accepted in principle,
Okay.
and then had to wait for a date to sign up.
Okay.
And they only gave me 1 week's notice.
Okay.
To you know, I got a letter in the mail, said turn up on the 11th of August 1980.
Yep.
And I did, to be a radio tech.
Okay.
And so I then ended up at radio school, 142 RTC, if that means anything to anyone. Now,
Ron.
yeah, he already knows. Now, some of the things that happened when I was at Laverton, RAAF Laverton had 2 radio clubs, amateur radio clubs.
Okay. Okay.
One for the on-base people and the adult trainees. I was an adult trainee.
Okay.
VK3ARC, Amateur Radio Club.
Okay.
And the apprentices had VK3APP.
Right.
Very easy to remember for the apprentices.
Okay.
Now, I had to get on the key list, so it took a couple of months before we had the meeting with the base radio officer.
Right.
And so we had a discussion about what we were supposed to do and that. And when the discussion finished, the base radio officer says, "Now, unofficially, we do not talk to the Russians."
Unofficially, we don't talk to the Russians. I love it.
And I managed to hold a straight face. I nearly burst out laughing. This is so James Bond.
Yes.
You know? And, but anyway, because I got on the VK3ARC, which is the full ticket
Yep.
licence, I could use 20 metres on an office and limited licence. Right?
Definitely the
So
Russians.
I was calling my mentor up in Ennisvale
Yep.
on 20 metres.
Okay.
And the first conversation, I had a 5-10 minute conversation with him, and I hung up, is that the right word, finished off the call,
Yep.
and a Russian called me. And And I thought,
We don't
not
talk to the
gonna-
Russians.
Not going to talk to this guy. And I'd made the sked to talk to him on another day, and I did. And then 3 Russians called me. No one else. Right? And I'm getting a bit spooked out by this. And then on the next contact I had with my mentor,
Yep.
there would have been 7 or 8.
The word's getting out there.
And I just turned off, unplugged it, and never used that call sign again.
Right.
So that was that one.
I love it.
Yeah, so middle of 1982, I could go on about winding transformers and so forth, learning my trade.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Okay, I carried around with me a transformer out of an old black and white valve TV.
Okay.
I thought I'm going to rewind this thing because we learned about transformers in the course.
Okay.
So I took the thing apart. I don't know how many laminations there were, but laminations went everywhere. Wire went everywhere, and varnish and so forth went everywhere. I went into town and I got 2 rolls of wire, a different gauge. And I just started winding. So I wound both bobbins with a thin gauge of wire and a thick gauge of wire.
Okay.
And I pushed in as many laminations as I could, and there's 4 left over.
Yep. Which there usually is. Yep.
Anyway, I hooked it up to a 240 volt cable, and then at the last minute I thought to myself, maybe I should put a fuse in this. So I put a fuse holder in line.
Good.
And put in something like a 0.1 amp fuse.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
Just to be safe. Anyway, I turned this thing on and there's this little faint click and a little faint blue flash from inside
The fuse holder.
Fuse holder.
Yes.
So I thought, there's nothing connected to it, so there's no load on it. I'll put another fuse in, so I put a 15 amp fuse in, turned it on, and the fuse holder just disintegrated. And there's bits of shrapnel going all around the room. I never got hit at all, nothing in my eye or anything, luckily, but there's ting, ting, ting stuff just bouncing around everywhere. And then I got on 2 meters and I thought I'd ask people's opinions about winding transformers, and then I learned about 6-to-1 turns ratios, and that you've got to use all those laminations because it was saturating and just drawing too much current. And so that's the only transformer I've ever rewound. It's easier just to go and buy one.
Yeah.
So in 1982, I got qualified as a radio tech, and I went firstly off to Richmond.
Okay.
Worked on Caribous, on.
That's the photo that Phil had on the wall, I remember, of the Caribous.
Yeah. Then up to Townsville, Caribous and Iroquois helicopters.
Yep.
And during that time, I'd more or less, not exactly lost interest in amateur radio, but it sort of took a back seat.
Yeah, okay,
Right?
okay.
Now, where was I going with that? Now, when I joined the Air Force, having come from CB then amateur radio, the only thing I wanted to do was work on comms radios.
Yep.
Right?
Okay.
In the 6 years that I was in, I never worked on a single comms radio.
Oh,
I
okay.
worked on navigation radios.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Data sort of stuff.
Electronic distance measuring, or DME, distance measuring,
Okay.
so forth, VOR, instrument landing and so forth. And I thought to myself for a long time, how disappointing, I've never worked on comms radios. 10 years after I got out, like 1996, I'm at a barbecue, I'm talking to a guy about this, that I never worked on comms radios, and it suddenly occurred to me, I'd spent 5 years working with surveyors.
Yeah.
Surveyors is 360 degrees in a circle.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
and
Everything
360
rotates around that.
and I'd gone from working with surveyors to doing navigation radios. Same thing.
Correct.
And,
Don't worry. I'll turn that down.
Yeah. So one door closed and another door opened.
Yep.
And it's the same thing.
It's the same. Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Right?
Very similar.
And it didn't occur to me at all.
Okay.
But so around 1986 I got out of the Air Force. 1987 I was working for AWA
Okay.
in Townsville at Skywest Aviation doing the Coastwatch, Customs Coastwatch, Coastwatch.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Doing all the radios on that. So we had to do refits. We refitted 7 aircraft.
Well, that was comms radios.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was comms.
Yes.
Eventually.
Installations. In 1990, I went to Brisbane.
Okay.
And worked for MyTech for 5 years.
Well, there you go.
And
We used an awful lot of MyTech dishes
so
for our 10 gig gear.
spent 4 years in the Lynx division.
Okay.
On mostly on the 10 gigahertz or 10.5 gig.
Yep.
10.5 to 10.7 gig.
Yep.
Transmitters.
Yep. Okay.
I did 450 transmitters in that time. There was only one guy that could ever do the receivers.
Okay.
No one else could do it. No one could bend those coils
Yep.
at all. He was lucky to do 2 a day.
Okay.
But anyway, so I was 4 years in the Link division, and I've got no idea how many of those dishes, 400, 600 and 1200 mil dishes that I've tuned.
Yeah.
Never tuned a 1800 mil.
Okay.
But I only ever did the ones with the circular waveguide. Never did the rectangular waveguide. I'd already moved out of there by the time they went to that.
Okay. No, ours are all rectangular.
Yeah. They have a little bit more gain than the original splash plate feed antennas.
Okay.
Now the reason that MyTech had to go to the waveguide, to the rectangular waveguide, DOTAC, D-O-T-A-C, Department of Transport and Communications was at the time, told them they've got to be able to guarantee that they only send out one polarity.
Yeah, okay.
And to prevent cross-polarity issues.
Interference and
issues and so forth. So they had to do that. They picked up 1 dB in gain in the antennas, in the feed guide, I should say. Now, from there, I spent the last year in SATCOM doing up and down converters, C-band and KU band up and down converters for satellite stuff, a couple of beacon receivers and so forth, and then I copped a redundancy because they had too many people and they started offloading, which is another story. And so I finished there on the 1st of December 1995 and practically haven't touched the radio since.
Yeah, okay.
I go to radio clubs to talk about the good old days, and that's it. Now I've got a stack of photos.
RD contest.
RD contest.
You touched the radio then.
Yeah. So this has been a completely different experience coming here to Tasmania. Now, we've got a hand drawing here of late 1978. I'd made that single element quad from a CB.
Okay.
With a 3-section 30-foot TV mast. And so you got 2 very thin people there. Those were the days. Now my dad in the front, myself at the back, and we started pushing this mast up. And then if we go to the next one, it's overbalanced.
Oh.
It come down and smashed.
Oh,
so
dear.
I had to go into town and buy new bits. And like we're standing there with question marks over our head thinking, how did that happen? Because the footing wasn't held.
All right.
Right, go to the next one, and we got VK4NLL, John up in Innisfail at the time. He built a 2-element quad for 10 and 15 metres on a 50-foot TV mast.
Cool.
Now, if you can see there, it's not in colour. Anyway,
There's
50-foot
a
mast.
red rope to ute.
Yeah. So there's a couple of other people that are not in the picture. No one was holding the base. No one even thought about it, right? I'm driving the ute, and we've got a rope from the tree to a pulley on the roof.
Yep.
And if we go to the next one, so we've got it vertical. I've seen it in the mirror, and I've hopped out of the car. Now, I've taken it just a squidging past
Oh.
vertical. It's touched the veranda, like the fascia board on the veranda.
Yep.
And that's become a lever.
And that's not
Yeah.
fixed.
Not fixed. And so it just came straight down and smashed.
Oh.
And like it took him 3 weeks to rebuild it. And then when we had a second attempt, we had 44-gallon drums full of water out in the paddock
Right.
to act as ballast, not ballast, but to act as a point where it couldn't go past and so forth.
Okay.
So we put it up there, and he was very successful. He spent most of his time on 15 metres,
Okay.
whereas I've always preferred 10 metres.
Yep.
So that's a lesson, and then we go to the next one, which is, now you can see
There it is.
This is the house I grew up in.
Yep.
In Innisfail, far north Queensland, the wettest area of Australia in the dry season.
Right.
So you can see everything's been burnt.
Yes.
You don't mow the lawn, you just burn it.
Right.
Righto, next one. And it's a bit closer there. You see the cubicle
yes.
quad.
Yep.
On about 45 feet of pipe.
Okay.
Right, so next one. This is the day that we put it up. And it's not me at the moment. Because you'll see there's a Hessian rope off to the right there, yeah. Now, we tied that up and then didn't give any thought about how we're going to undo it.
Right.
So this guy tried to get up there, he couldn't get up there. And then the next one, so he's come down, that's very dangerous there. Very dangerous like that. And then the next one, his brother went straight up.
Okay.
And undid the rope and came straight down. Next one. So give us a cherry
On it.
wave now.
On the way down.
Now, you see where can you see right at the bottom, centre of picture, is a white, it's been covered by
Yeah.
Right,
So
just
there.
there, right.
There it is.
That's the bracket that I used to guide the mast to the house.
Okay.
Right. Now, when I put that up there, I didn't see. It didn't occur to me there was a gap because there's an overhang or a lip on the edge of the roof,
Okay.
like the corrugated iron. So there's a 3/4 of an inch gap.
Okay.
Right. So I just cut off a piece of wood, stuck it in there as a spacer, and Are we able to go to the 2 coach bolts?
Ah, well, now, hang on. Let's go to...
These 2 coach bolts.
These 2 coach bolts.
They're 41 years old. I've kept them in my toolbox as a reminder. Right. That's how much we're sticking into soft wood for the fascia board. Now that went from probably October through to February.
Okay.
It was the day after the full ticket theory exam in February.
Okay.
Of the
Third Tuesday. Yep.
Yeah, the day after the 3rd Tuesday. All right. And if we go back to pictures,
Yep. We go to the next one.
that's still the day that we put it up there, so you can see it. You can see, you might just barely be able to see the vertical, 80 metre through to, no, a bit further over, blending into the tree, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a high gain 80 metre through to 10 metre vertical, which was pretty hopeless.
Okay.
Yeah, go to the next one. Now, I never got the bow out of it. I tried many times. There was a bend in it, and just never corrected it.
Yep.
And then I had to work on the wiring. Go to the next one. That's me. And so I'm at the top of 45 feet of pipe, wearing a purple shirt, which was the fashion of the day. So we go on to the next one.
Oh, I hope you went on that when it went down.
See, the grass is green.
Yes, yeah, good point.
And
Not good.
that poor old toilet
Not
has
good.
survived 2 cyclones and 1 antenna crash.
Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, okay.
Now, that post sticking out of the ground was how I supported the pipe,
Okay.
right? And the idea was I had the coax going up the centre of the mast,
Okay.
so you could turn it anywhere.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
And just keep on turning.
Okay.
And you'd never snag or foul the coax.
Yep.
So that worked.
Cool.
We go to the next one. Now, we're off on a bit of a tangent here. That's me carrying a trig post. It's a 12-foot long piece of 4x4 Jarrah
Okay.
up Mount Undulia in Alice Springs. Go
Right.
to the next one. And that's the other two guys that were going up the mountain with me.
Okay.
And again, having a rest. And again, that's me at the top.
Woohoo.
Look at those ab muscles. Those were the days. Now, I had to climb that mountain twice that day,
Right.
because the other two forgot to carry the hammer. So they were trying to use a rock and trying to bash in 1 inch long galvanised roofing nails into those fins that hadn't been drilled into Jarrah.
Into Jarrah, forget
Right,
that.
so this
Hardwood.
guy's on the edge of a 200-foot cliff.
Yep.
And he's hitting the nails, and one would fling off, and he'd try and grab this thing, and he's on a 200-foot cliff, you know. So I said, stop, I'll just go down to the car and get the hammer, and I'll come straight back up. So I climbed it twice that day. I was back in the good old days when I could do things like that, and that's when they'd finished, because they had to take all those, almost all those stones down.
Yep.
So that they could take the old post out.
Yep.
And put the new post with fins on.
Okay.
And next one, and righto. Now, at the same time, if you see a very faint white dot way off, 27 kilometres off in the distance, that's a sun reflection from I don't know whether they're called heliostat or heliograph.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. So the surveyor and the crew at the other end were communicating with him, sending the mirror flash. Now the surveyor's the guy on the extreme right. He's looking through the theodolite.
Okay.
And his chain man in front of him, in a very odd position,
Yep.
is doing what we call a drop shot with a plumb bob.
Okay.
So I've just got to now. The instrument sitting on the on the rock there was a telluriometer.
Okay.
Now, I don't know the fine details. I'm sure that's 10 gigs,
Okay.
probably with a gun diode,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Horn antenna.
Yep.
Now, they had full duplex comms, because I saw them. I've got a photo, I don't know where it is, of the two guys talking at the same time
Okay.
through that thing.
Yep.
Now, this is 1976, May 1976, right?
Cool.
So that's not so much introduction to radio or anything, it's just another step along the way, something else I've seen.
Cool.
We'll just go to the next couple. Right, that's to the edge.
Right.
And again, so you can see the sort of
Yes.
edge. Excuse me.
And that's the McDonald Ranges. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on Mount Undulia.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next one. And again. Right. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
the guys out in the room, we were talking earlier about OH&S. Now, this is January 1980, and I was fully compliant because I had my steel cap safety boots on.
A pair of what? Dunlop volleys.
I don't know. No,
They are safety boots.
Yeah, still
they are
safety
safety boots.
boots,
Okay. All right.
Now, if you see the coding in radio,
Yep.
there,
This one here.
Now, this is out of the Burdekin Dam dam site when they were building it.
Okay.
Now, there's no telephones or anything. They relied on radio.
Okay.
They had 2020, which was 2.020
Yep.
megahertz AM flying doctor thing
Yep.
in two Cairns. So they'd have a skid, excuse me, every morning. Now, I've got my TS120V and the SWR
There we-
meter there,
there we
and
go.
I've connected up. I'm on 10 metres in the 2020 antenna.
Yep.
And communicating with an old chappie over in Denmark,
Okay.
Bornholm Island. Now, so you can see the tan,
Definitely.
my tanned nose. I didn't realise how burnt I was until I saw that today. So that was that one. Oh, the important thing about this, that Codan radio, the call sign for that was VL for Romeo Echo. Now, anyone that knows me will know that I've got a fascination for the term Romeo Echo.
Romeo Echo. Well and true.
Because I've had VK1 Romeo Echo, VK7 Romeo Echo, now VK5 Portable 7 Romeo Echo, and that is where that comes from. That Codan radio.
Okay.
There, right?
Okay.
So.
It's a bit of a link back to the past. It's good.
Yes. Yeah.
It's good.
Now, you can see the little red dot.
Just the red dot.
I don't know if Rex is out there.
Right there. Yep.
That's a helium neon laser. I don't know whether it was 1 watt or not 1 watt, 1 milliwatt or 10 milliwatts. It was low power.
Okay.
And again, 1976 that was, working with the surveyors. And we go to the next one. So that's the reflectors that we were putting up on the post where I was. I had to stay there and move them because they were going to operate from 2 positions, so I had to stay there.
Okay.
Now, if you ever get to see these things, each one of those reflectors has a, it's like a 3-sided prism. Now, they're very, very precisely cut. Now, when you look at them, each one of them will look back at you, and your image is upside down and back to front, and you'll see a 6-pointed star.
Okay.
Right, because there's 3 faces. Now, the other peculiarity is that you will see your dominant eye.
Okay.
Like you've got 2 eyes.
Yep.
But you only see one reflection.
Yep. Okay.
And it's your dominant eye. Right. So anyway, we go on to the next one. The final picture is that one there. That's the boss at the time with the Arga geodometer, and he's range finding again to the reflectors over at another point.
Okay.
So that's more or less it.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Graham. A great insight into your foray and the reasons you got into radio.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Something came around on Facebook a couple of days ago and said, if you wrote a book about your life, what would it be called? And I put in my boring life. Because the things that have happened to me are not interesting to most people at all.
Interesting to hams.
Yeah. And I could probably tell you the most interesting thing, if someone said what was the most interesting thing that you've ever done or seen, it would be one particular afternoon when I was working in Kununurra, almost 4:30 in the afternoon. We were just waiting for 4:30 so that we could go home.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
There's 3 of us standing around talking, as government people tended to do, till 4:30, and we're looking across our car park, across the next allotment to the allotment 2 doors away.
Okay.
And there's this big heap of lemongrass, because this is Kununurra and they were experimenting with lemongrass at the time, 1975, right? And there's some wisps of smoke coming out of it. And we're just standing there talking about anything, and then another wisp of smoke, another wisp of smoke, and then finally a tiny little wisp of flame.
Okay.
Spontaneous combustion.
Okay.
But we didn't think about it. And we're still talking, waiting for 4:30. And eventually the thing's actually on fire. And I said to the other 2, is anyone over there looking after that fire? I go, no. I said, you go and see if you can get through the gate, I'll go and raise the alarm. And I took off straight into the office, and I could tell another half-hour story about all the things like this that have happened to me. Now, I went running down the hallway. I could see my boss in one office, and then the guys from Water Resources, there were 3 of them in another room, in their office, right? And I'm going, fire, there's a fire 2 doors away. And people just looked, except for the manager of Water Resources, who leapt out of his chair, flew through the room, almost knocked me over in the corridor, flying out the door to confirm what I'd called out. He's come running straight back in, got straight on the phone, 000, and about less than 10 seconds is the air raid siren going off.
Okay.
And then a minute later the fire brigade's there,
Yep.
and then minutes later there's all the other volunteers turning up.
Okay.
Right? So I can go on and on and on about emergencies and urgent situations. I've been in 7 serious, like, urgent situations and a couple of emergencies.
Yep.
I could go on and on about that.
We've got other things we've got to cover.
But yeah, the essence of it is you've got to act quickly.
Oh no, well and
Right,
truly.
because don't be a spectator.
Well and truly. And don't forget your bulbs.
Yes, 42
Your bulbs.
years old.
So thank you very much,
Yep.
Graham, for sharing that and your journey of amateur radio.
Yeah.
And those fantastic. There we go.
Yep.
I'll
Tough.
give you that. Those fantastic photos of
Yeah.
the journey.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Thanks, Graham. And this is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Night, and a fantastic journey in how you get into amateur radio. Now, one of the things we've been up to. And actually, if there's anybody listening out in the club rooms, if they could bring in the 3.4 gig grid pack antenna that's sitting in there, that would be fantastic. If there are some people out there who are listening. Now, while that's happening, the RD contest, woohoo! Third place in VK7. This is my certificate. Third place in VK7 and 4th overall with a score of 1,024 points. So huge congratulations to a whole bunch of people and VK7s. VK7 did take it out again. A huge congratulations to Hayden, VK7HH, who came second in the single operator phone. VK7ZBX came 4th in the single operator phone, and yours truly. Actually, that's a good point. I don't think that's right. But anyway, the ZBX, TW, ZMS, OO, and a huge number of other people, JGD, KAJ, etc., all feature. And in the teams, a huge congratulations to ZBX, ZMS, and HH, who topped the teams, Cronies +1, and also the Grassy Hut Hams came third, and that's DW, PD, and LH, who came third, and then there was VK4s who came second. Really, really good. Some fantastic soapbox comments. I think the thing that jumped out is the number of 001, so first year operators, jumps out. VK7, the number of logs per state, VK7 ended up with 57, and given the based on the scores and the number of amateurs, that's what enabled us to take it out. Yeah, and from a scores point of view, a huge score. What else is in here? By bands, we certainly did really well out of the 1.2 gig, so the 23 centimetres. That got us a huge number. The others, 40 metres, 40 metres was certainly the band of choice, and then 80 metres, then 144 and 70 centimetres certainly jumps out at me there. What else here? No. And the error log is certainly worth, in the report, they list the error log, which is a vast majority of the actual report. Very interesting, and always look at the error log to see where things went wrong. And if to give you an example, if I go to myself, hang on, bear with me. VK7. Now VK7 MMT, I'm not quite sure who MMT is, but really lots of calls falls outside valid logs times, so I think there might have been a timing problem there. VK7TW, unique received call, missed a log, missed the call, so wrote the call sign down wrong. No matching contacts found. In fact, most of them, there are no matching contacts found. So basically invalid, those points are taken off, which is just, this is no matching contact found, etc. So yeah, definitely worth looking at the error report in the log. But VK7 takes it out for, I think it's the 6th year, so congratulations to all those who contributed and put in a log. Fantastic work. Now, I'll just go and grab, just bear with me, and I'll go and grab the grid pack, because there's a bit of a 70 centimetre, 3.4 gig update, 9 centimetre update. That's an interesting thing. Let me try that. Just bear with me. Okay. Now, all right, 3.4 gig update. Richard VK7ZBX and Alan VK7KAJ. We did some more tests on the weekend. Richard was using a panel antenna, and I was using also a panel antenna. Now the panel antennas are the ones that are the Geelong Amateur Radio Club came up with some internet ISP type 3.4 gig panel antennas. They're about a little bit more than a foot, probably 13 inches ish square. They are PCB antennas. They're a patch type antenna with a matched array. I was using that, Richard was using that. We had full quietening, bouncing it off the mountain, and so that was fantastic. Alan VK7KAJ was using the Yagi, PCB Yagi antenna, and he was full quietening to both of us. So from that point of view, that was absolutely fantastic. Definitely proved that slightly more gain got you full quietening on FM from Tea Tree, from Blackman's Bay, and me in the middle pointed at Mount Wellington. So really good. During the week, the 3.4 gig feed, that we've got a couple of these antennas, complete antennas on order, but the grid packs are the issue, the barbecue grills are the issue, but the feeds aren't. So I ordered one of these, so did Steve, and we put it into barbecue grills that we had. Come in, Steve. So this is the full grid pack size antenna. Just hang on.
That's huge.
So that's the normal size one, and we've got a couple of those coming. So full complete, but also the grid packs as well, the barbecue grills as well. So you can see this is a standard Ostar type 2.4 gig. Actually, it's not 2.4. It's something a bit different. Same feed, but different grill on the back. So so these are the things that are on their way. These are 27 dB antennas. This will be a little bit less because we don't have the area. But anyway, that's Sunday's or earlier's test. Probably won't be Sunday actually because we've got the barbecue up here with the military radios. We might bring them up here and try try it from up here. But anyway, that's these are Chinese produced feeds, and they cover 3.3 to 3.8 gigs. And supposedly 27 dBi with that size grid pack. So that's our next experiment. And given that we were getting full quietening on with the panel antennas, I suspect we are well and truly going to get full quietening with these, and a whole lot more and a whole lot more distance too. So we'll be able to do the, well, given the north, there are at least 2 of those transverters and 2 of these antennas going into the north with Peter and Idris. So we should be able to do some north-south 3.4 gig contacts.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
So from elevated areas in the south and the north. So there you go. So that's the 3.4 gig update. So look out. We had 3 on 9 on the weekend, so we're looking for 9 on 9 to match the 23 on 23, which Rex is able to conjure up every so often. So thank you, Steve, for bringing that in. That's excellent.
Even more, Justin, if you want to borrow it for a few weeks, you may.
Ooh, yes, please.
Because my radio is not even shipped yet.
Oh, bugger. Okay. Well, actually, it would be great to do a comparison.
Yes, it would.
Because I know this is not going to be, certainly not going to be the 27 dBi, but I would love to do a comparison between the 2 of them, because that would be 27 dBi.
I would imagine, yeah.
Because that's what it's, that's the packets the barbecue
is that the
grill
right
is
thing?
made
Because
for.
that's just one I had laying around.
Correct. So that would be fantastic, Steve.
Yeah.
And we can do the comparison and see what the difference is, if we've got any difference.
Absolutely, yeah.
Turn the power down and see what we can turn it down to. So cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yours.
Okay, thank you. Can I get you to take those out or put them down there or something? Thank you. Now, just let me set up. We have this is something I didn't get to last week. One of and I'll just set this up. Now, what I can do is I've just got there we are. Now let me bring that back and let me turn that off. Now there is a Facebook page that I am on called Vintage Electronic Test Equipment. Now, I know there's a lot of people on this group. Well, there's 12.5 thousand members worldwide. But what jumped out at me was a posting just recently, which is this tube here. Now, this funny looking tube was labelled up as, this tube is likely the rarest and most reliable vacuum tube ever produced. It was designed to perform flawlessly in a specially built repeater residing at the bottom of the ocean for at least 20 years. And the tube pitches is at 175 HQ, heat and load tested for 5,000 hours and assigned a serial number, was earmarked as a spare in production of the TOT-1 undersea telephone communications cable used for the first time ever, and it to connect the US and Europe back in 1956. And it was never available to the public. Absolutely never available to the public. So, and the interesting thing here is they talk about it. Hello, Peter. How are you going? There are a couple of people who piped up here who obviously know an awful lot about this tube, and I'll just because there were 86 comments. There's some people who have made more comments since I was here before, because there was one person who posted an absolutely fascinating comment and obviously knew a whole lot about this tube. No. Because they literally had to run power supplies. These tubes were every 30 miles or 30 kilometres, and there were 3 tubes in each amplifier. There were 2 tubes which were the amplifier, and there was 1 tube which was used as a bypass if the amplifier failed. And they had to literally feed the power down the cable to power each one of these. Burn-in period 23. No, I can't find it. But it was at the top of the comments, and I think a lot of other people have suddenly commented. But absolutely fascinating that these tubes went through 5,000 hours of basically heat and load test, and then they were put in these waterproof repeater stations, every 30 odd, I think it was 30 miles. Of cable between the US and Europe, and this was put into service in 1956 and stayed in service for quite a long time. It was expected that the cable was had a life of something like about 20 years. So just absolutely fascinating. I just it's just the rarest tube is how it's labelled up. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, which was something that I had actually lined up for last week, is CSIRAC. Now, for those people who don't know, CSIRAC was the very first digital computer in Australia that was produced by the CSIRO. It was built between 1947 and 1949, so it was post-war, and it was publicly demonstrated in 1951, which is where the 70th anniversary of it being publicly demonstrated comes from. It operated from 1949 to 1964 when it was switched off, and one of the things that I wanted to show you was I went in 2016 to the Melbourne Museum, and in 2016 the CYRAC computer was actually still at the Melbourne Museum. It is actually now if I don't want to do that. Can I increase the size? There we go. Now it's actually acknowledged. Sorry, I'll go back a step. When I took these photos, it was at the Melbourne Museum. It's now been moved to the Science Works Museum in Melbourne, but it was sitting at the Melbourne Museum. I actually think I went to see the Egypt exhibition at the Melbourne Museum, would you believe, and happened to stumble across CSIRAC. So this is actually the CSIRAC computer that was built. Unfortunately, it ended up being donated to the museum. The Institute of Engineers have a heritage sticker on it as the first digital computer, and it was the 5th stored program computer in the world. Now, the way that it actually stored the program was absolutely fascinating.
Used a crow tube.
No, used Mercury delay lines. So long, thin tubes of mercury, of which... Now, these are the photos that I actually took. So this is the console. This is where it ran on punch tape to program it. There is a control panel which I'll show you a close-up of, where you can put in the address bits and the data bits. These are the panels of valves. It was a valve computer, and the valves that were actually used were common valves. 6 SN7s, 6 V6s, EA50 diodes, so there was some solid state in there, and some KT66s, beam tetrodes.
But they're big and bulky.
They're big and bulky, and very popular with audiophiles right at the moment, with valve amplifiers, KT66s. They were found in guitar amplifiers and all sorts of things. Now, in between the two racks, the back and the front rack, are the Mercury delay lines, basically the Mercury memories. So what they do is they feed signals in at one end, and it travels along the Mercury and pops out at different places along the delay line. And so you can have basically a stored program that travels along the Mercury, and you pull it off at various points. So absolutely fascinating. Mercury acoustic delay lines was its primary data storage, with a capacity of 768 20-bit words. Now, it was a 20-bit computer. It had 5 destination bits, 5 source bits, and 10 address bits. There were 32 destination gates, 32 source gates, and 10 address bits identified a data word. So you had 1,024 instructions, and although the actual there was only about a quarter of that used, there was only about 256 bits of that used. It had 3 20-bit registers, A, B, and C, a group of 16 20-bit registers, in addition to a 20-bit program counter and an instruction register. So absolutely fascinating. I used paper tape. I mentioned, actually, we'll just go on. I've got a picture of the paper tape. Sitting on the desk is the programming manual for it, which they came up with. Now, quite late in the piece, they actually came up with, and it was around 1960, so it was only 4 years before it was decommissioned. They came up with a program called Interprogram, which was very similar to what BASIC was. It was an interpretive language, but quite late in the piece. It was the very first computer to play electronic music. And this is a program that came out of the ABC, Electronic Music's Origin, and I was just going to play the very first bit of this. It's about 22 minutes long, but the very first bit of this actually has a reproduction, because there is no recording known of the actual computer playing, but this is a reproduction.
Okay, so you had something that you wanted to play me?
Yeah, let me just track it down. Hang on.
Oh yeah. By the way, this is Sum of All Parts. I'm Joel Werner, and we've got producer Carl Smith, who's going to play me a clip of something.
Yeah. Okay, I've got it here. So this is very special. Ready your ears.
Anyway, that's a reproduction of the recording of the computer type music that they actually programmed CSIRAC to play. So it has the claim to fame that it was the first computer to actually play electronic music. So absolutely fascinating. The next, now this is, you can see there is a teletype or an output type typewriter, electric typewriter. Here's your punch tape going through a reader, and you can see this particular cabinet here, this particular rack here was the power supply for, now there were over 2,000 valves in this. It took 30 kilowatts to run, and this power supply, I'm not sure whether I've got a picture of it, but the base of this power supply has a huge three-phase transformers in them, supplying the power. The next, now here's the control board. So this is where you can actually physically program in the data bits, the address bits, the control bits, and then put that into a particular register, and so you can manually program CSIRAC. Very similar to the microprocessor, the Z80 microprocessor that I showed a couple of episodes ago. Very similar to that. This is a little bit around. Actually, if we can zoom in here, it shows you a little bit. You can see power supply, CPU, test power supplies. There's a whole little test rig in here, and there's a donger, what they call a donger, and that's an official term, where they used to, to try and find a valve that was faulty, they'd go around and actually tap the valves, and if they were they'd run a little test program, and if they tapped the valve and the program stopped, they'd replace the valve. So absolutely fascinating. All the control ports, the memory, the acoustic delay in here, absolutely fascinating. Let me keep going. That's the explanation of the bits and pieces. Now, this is a great picture, because this man here was one of the creators, and this was Trevor Piercy. It was created by Trevor Piercy and Maston Beard back in 47 to 49, and they went on and developed it further. Now this I have to, this is a comparison between CSIRAC and a laptop in 2010. The processing speed was somewhere between 500 to 1,000 hertz. The memory capacity was 2,000 bytes. The size was 40 meters squared. The weight was 2.5 tons. It consumed 30 kilowatts, and the technology was 2,000 valves. So just phenomenal, just phenomenal. But a beautiful piece of history. That's the special case where they held all of the programmed the punch tapes, and you can see that's the interprogram program, which was the monitor program, or the basic like monitor program that they used, the interpretive language on CSIRAC from around about 1960. That's it at the control desk. You can see there's a little bit of an electric typewriter, which I assume is the ability to punch the tape, which they then ran through the machine. And all the programs, actually, sorry, there's I'll go back a step here. All the programs in the little boxes that they had to run. So there would be, this was a library of programs that enabled people to run particular things, so they didn't have to then reprogram or create the paper tapes. So that was the little library of subroutines, I suppose you'd call them these days. Now that's the power supply. You can see it there. If we zoom in down the bottom here, they're full of very large transformers in the bottom, and all the I assume current and voltage meters for the power supply for the 2,000 valves. Yeah, the CSIRAC's brain. There are all the valves in there as gates. They were being used as on-off gates. Now this is where, this is Faulty valves were a constant problem. To find one, staff would use a rubber donger, which is a stick with a rubber stopper. You would run a diagnostic tape and walk behind the cabinets and go bong bong on each valve. Sooner or later you'd hit the valve and the program would stop. So you'd replace that valve. So absolutely fascinating. A bit of troubleshooting there. Oh, this is the tape preparation. So that's that little, you can see that's the tape library that I pointed at. This is a little special typewriter that punches the tape that you then run through the computer. Yeah, and that's about how they do it. So anyway, that's that's a little bit about CSIRAC. In 1955, with the CSIRO's decision that computing research was outside of its purview, the machine was transferred to its home at Radiophysics Laboratory at CSIRO in Sydney, and then it was moved to the University of Melbourne, where it formed Australia's only academic computing facility until late 1956, and it was shut down in 1964. Now, I'll include, there's a couple of links in here I'll include in the write-up for the video as well, but absolutely fascinating. CSIRAC turning 70, that's the first stored program computer in Australia, produced by the very early CSIRO post-war. Now, there was another thing I just wanted to very quickly say. Encounter magazine, this is the alumni magazine from Flinders University that I get. And one of the things that jumped out here was, and a common problem for many of us older members of the population, is an article called A New Hope for Tinnitus Sufferers. So there's some research that's going on by a couple of people at Flinders University, where they are actually finding the particular parts of your brain where they do HD TDCS, a type of non-invasive brain stimulation to reduce the white noise of tinnitus, levels of tinnitus, and it involves given tinnitus is caused by disrupted neural networks in your brain. This trial is aiming to use a very safe, low amplitude direct current stimulation, so DC stimulation to the brain. What's that noise? Oh, it's the radio. It's the radio squelch out there. Sorry, I think I was hearing noise. White noise. No, sorry. But low amplitude direct current stimulation to the brain to correct those networks and basically stopping your brain creating the noise that you hear as tinnitus. Anyway, that's a bit of research that's going on at Flinders University right at the moment, so that is fantastic. So what I will do is I will just finish off. I came across these, and people will know Mini Kits, which is a company out of South Australia. Mark Kilmeyer, who is an amateur, runs Mini Kits. He produces a whole range of boards and a whole range of kits, and these kits, there is a kit that he produces which is a low pass filter, or actually it doesn't have to be low pass, it can be a filter using a combination of capacitors and inductors, Chebyshев filters, and these are boards that he produces which are general purpose filter boards up to, I think, 9th and 13th order type filters. I think that's at least 9th, where you can see there are a whole lot of spots for series and shunt type capacitors, and also the inductors to go with it. And there's room for 6 inductors and the associated capacitors in here. You can solder SMA or BNC on each end. The form factor of this PCB is for a standard sized die-cast box, So basically you put the RF connectors on each end of the box and this screws into the box. You can then come up with the filter. There is also, this is for leaded component filters, there is also a board that's available for surface mount filters, so surface mount capacitors and surface mount inductors. Yeah, you can wind the toroids on here, so it gives you a bit more power. I think the maximum power, he says, is about 10 watts through one of these from a transmit perspective. But the surface mount ones would be good for the receive ones. So these are EME 164s. There is also kits available for all sorts of frequencies to come up with high pass, low pass and band pass filters. But these are little general purpose boards. If you're talking about filters, these are little general purpose boards available from mini kits. So just thought I'd finish off with boards. I have some low pass filters and some band pass filters that I'm making up for 630 meters and 2200 meters. So they're really the VLF and the LF frequencies, and that's what I've actually purchased them for. So really nice little ready-made boards, and you can experiment with them. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And we might leave that until the next one. Now, reminder, this coming Sunday the 3rd of October, we have our October presentation, which is on Sunday, preceded by barbecue, BYO barbecue up here. So the hot plates will be fired up. And then after we've all had our barbecue, we've got Peter VK7KPC and VK7KB, Kim, coming along with their military radios. They will be setting them up out in the compound, the domain compound, and showing you their military radios. And then November, which is Wednesday night, the 3rd of November, all about digital hotspots with Scott VK7HSE. Now, we've got a whole bunch of videos for our RF viewers, so they'll see them. Quite a few Antarctic Division ones as well. Recent ones all about the Noyina, which is wending its way here, should be here in, I think, a week or two's time. So our new Antarctic vessel. So anyway, that's our oh, hang on. Now let me look at whether there's any comments in the stream. Just bear with me. Close that down. Close that down.
What's a digital hotspot?
Digital hotspot is a little computer with a radio, a little digital radio connected to it, so that you can use your DMR and your digital voice handhelds directly into the internet. So you can have very good at aged care facilities, because basically you can talk to the world, but on your handheld. So yeah. Now, hello David, VK7DMG. I hope you enjoyed yourself on the weekend. And Sean, speed of sound in Mercury is slower than in free air. So there you go. And given the computer was only operating at about 1,000 hertz at its most, you can a kilohertz. So you can start to see how they sequenced programs through the Mercury. So there you go. Anyway, absolutely fascinating, and all available at the Science Works Museum once Victoria opens up again, and you can actually go and see it in the flesh at the Science Works Museum. So at Spotswood, I think it is, if I'm right there. I think it's Spotswood is the suburb just outside CBD Melbourne. So there you go. And good to hear. We had a good weekend, David. That's excellent. We were up at Pyengana doing radios for the Equine Endurance event that was up there on the weekend. So had a great time. So really, really good. Ended up winning the raffle as well. So I got the hamper. So that was a bit of a bonus at the end of the weekend. Anyway, enough of that. We'll shut down at that. So 73 to All on Frequency. Thanks for coming in on the chat to David and Sean. and hope you got something out of that. And we'll get won't be. Oh no, we will have actually. That's a good point. We will have a DATV night next Wednesday night because our presentation is on Sunday. So there you go. Totally forgot about that. So we will be back next week with a few other stories. 73, and this is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Night. And 73, and we will catch you next week. See you.